Hi, my name's Tom Washura, and I'm a student of Professor Connell's from Foothill College. This summer we did a archaeological program at Clear Lake, the 2025, and we all got exposure to a lot of great things, including the total station, being able to make measurements of UTM locations around a site. Uh, for my legacy project, I'm preparing this little video so that people could get an introduction of it before they get hands-on. And in this example, I take a measurement from a datum point, and then, as if we were at a site where we didn't have good line of sight to all the different locations we needed to take measurements, I traverse the base to another measured site, and then showed the example of using it at that site to actually measure backwards to see how accurate I was in placing it. So I hope you find this helpful. I'm sorry in advance for the quality of the video, but I think if you listen to the words and watch the video, you'll get a good jump start at being able to move the base station from location to location on the total station, and that'll give you a good introduction to the buttons and keys you have to press. Thanks. Okay, we just approached the total station. The first thing we want to do is level it. To help level it, it's nice to turn on the laser beam that points straight down. So I'm going to turn on power. The power goes through a little self-test. See if I can get a way that could show up. A little self-test, and then I can turn on the laser, and F3 says laser down. So there, if I look down, I can see the little laser dot on my little stake there, and that tells me I'm up and down. Next, I'll turn off the laser so I don't burn up extra power. F3 turns it off again. And now I want to set up the station definition, or the settings. So the first thing I press is menu. And then from menu, I have an option for collection data, layout, or memory. I'm going to go to F2 for layout. Here I can set up a file name that I'm going to use for my project. You can input a file name in letters and numbers. I'm going to actually use the list feature and find there's Tom2, Longridge, Tom1. I'm going to use this. Now I have to do my station setup. Station setup, I press F1. The first thing it wants to know is the height of the instrument. And I can press the input button here to enter a number, 1.622 meters. Hit enter, and that will set up my measurement. Now that I've entered the instrument height, I will press enter again, and it asks for the coordinate data set, because we're going to work in UTM coordinates. I can search through them, or I can enter them manually. Search are perhaps coordinates that I already have in the field, if I was to be setting this on a spot that I had already used. But in this case, we're starting fresh, so I would hit the NEZ button to program a default NEZ. It's often in this field that we set it to 5,000 meters, and 100 meter vertical. And to do that, you follow the asterisk here, input, enter 5,000, enter, and then move on to the next one. And you go through all three that way. All X, Y, and Z. And now I'm back at the layout screen. The key setting for the station is to have it point to north, or to point to a known angle. The rotation of this device is very precise, but it doesn't know absolute value, so you have to tie it to something. You might tie it to another point, or you might have an odd angle that you can set it to, or you might use another point and backside it to it. But to get started, you might just have it point to north. And there are two ways of setting this. One is to do a 0 degree set. The other is a horizontal set where you set it to a known degree. I'm going to do the 0 set. And so this is where I would get a compass and lay it up against this, perhaps very carefully, and have this thing point north, maybe lock it down, and then I'd come in and say 0 set. So I'm going to press my 0 set button. It asks if that's okay. I press yes, and that will go ahead and set my current horizontal at 0 degrees or north. So far I've set my location to be 5,000, 5,100, and we've defined 0 degrees as north. Next I want to go and get ready, and I've set the height of my instrument by measuring the distance over here to ground. So now I will press my menu button and go to collection data, F1. So it wants to know a file name to store things through. Again, you can input a name, or I'm going to go through the list of things that are there already and select one that I already have open. In here I have the chance to do station setup again, and if I want to backsite to something that's in that file, maybe a previous point, and to start making collections. So let's just quickly go through these. Station setup was the instrument height. We already have that. Hit enter. It tells us the NEZ setting of where we are. This is that 5,000, 5,000. That's good. And enter that. And then that one's set up. I can now, so I did my station setup. I can now go to make a collection. I'm going to hit F3. F3, I want to measure a point. So I give it a name of a point. This is so when I download the data, I'm going to have names and things in my Excel spreadsheet. This point ID lets me maybe put some alphanumeric. I'm going to say input and call this point maybe alphanumeric ABC. I think I'm up to D and the number 1 just to get started. In the ID field, I'm going to hit enter that so I can enter an ID, and you can put anything you want in here. I'm just going to put 555. Enter. Then it asks for the reflector height. I'm set across the field over there at 1.625 meters, so that's good. And next is when you would adjust this, loosening up everything to go and point exactly to your reflector. So I'll do that just a sec. Okay, I have lined up through the lens the target, and I have an option here to take a measurement. I'll press my measure, and it'll go and see a signal strength and displays a measurement. It continues to make measurements. You can hear it clicking, but I'm going to press the stop button to save the energy. And here I can see that I'm 5,013 meters northern and 4995 something eastern. So I'm 13 meters one direction and 5 meters approximately the other direction. And that makes about sense in terms of where my data was. The next button would be to record that button. Once I record it, it sets me up to make my next measurement, calls it D2. It's incremented that number for me. I might leave the ID or change it and be able to make another measurement. So the next thing to do would be to pretend you had to move the station and make another measurement somewhere. So right now I'm positioned here, and there's my target, and I know now what the UTM is for that target. So I'm going to move my total station over to my target and actually put the target back over here, and I'm going to try to reverse what they call backsite to find the reference of where that location is, and to calibrate the total station back to this point. Okay, so there's the target. I've successfully swapped these locations. That one's vertical, there's a bubble on it. This one is now leveled. You can see at the top here in both axes. And I actually powered it off so we can assure to start in the same spot. So I'm going to reach up here and turn power on. The first thing power on, I had actually had power on earlier because I used the laser to get this guy located. First thing I have to do is, or I would like to do, is do the 0 set or horizontal set. But what we don't want to do is use a compass here and get another north setting. We have a spot we know about, that spot over there, and we're going to backsite that spot to here instead of putting a compass up here and measuring another north. That would just cascade error by having to make new measurements each time. So let me take it to the next step here. So instead of setting the 0 set or horizontal set, we're going to go right into the menu system. And here we have the layout option F2. And we're going to again set the same file that we'd use over there, the TOM file. I'm going to use the list feature here and list Tom 2, Long Ridge, Tom 1, and enter and open that. Now we have the chance to set up our station again and to set our backstop or backside. The station setup, most importantly, is did I change the height of the element? So let's hit F1, and it asks for my height measurement. So I'll check that right now. Okay, so I just measured 1.582 meters to the line here. So I'm going to hit enter, and sorry, I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to hit input, and 1.582 meters, and hit enter. So now I have my instrument height. Okay, the next thing we have to do is figure out the angle of the device, and so I've actually pointed it back at the original spot, and I'm going to go to for example, to collect data. I'm going to hit F1, and again I'm going to set my file to be Tom2, enter that, and it wants me to do some setups. I've already set the height of this device, the F1 station setup. We can look at that again. So I'm 1.58 meters, hit enter, good. And I want to set up where I'll store my coordinate data. For this location, it wants to know where I'm going to be. And so I'm going to press the search and say, go to your last point, F2. And this is the last point that we measured from that point looking over here. And I'm going to say, set that to my point. Finally, I'm going to do the backsighting. And backsighting, it's going to say, I can go search for something that's already in my record as an N as E value, or I can, if I know the angle, I can type it in manually with a set, or if I want to manually enter a raw NEZ number. Now that happens to be the 5,100 point, and I've never measured that, so I don't have a data point on that one. So I'm actually going to come over here and use this NEZ one. I'm going to hit NEZ, and I had done this before, so it's already set up for 5,000, 5,000. Notice it doesn't say anything about vertical, because vertical isn't at play at this point of the measurement. I'm only trying to calibrate my rotating degrees here, and you do want to be pointing at it through the laser, but it's not going to do any kind of lasering or anything like that. It just wants to know the angle that this thing happens to be sitting. And it's different than what it was over there because I carried it over here and I sat it here. So now I'm going to press the enter. That's the point I want, 5,000 easting as well. And finally it shows me that angle, 162 degrees. Remember, north was behind me. 180 would be right over there, and sure enough, that's about 162 degrees, so that's pretty good. And I'm going to then hit set, and it does a little computation, and there. Now I got my setup to my backside. So now I know that this location is the location that I measured from there, and that my angle of my compass or my rotation has been calibrated. At this point, I've got my setup now moved from there. I could go about measuring anything, maybe I'm around a building or something, I can see that. One of the good tests is actually to go back and measure myself. What do I think that point is if I measure it from here? So let me go ahead and loosen up the locks on everything and sort of screw it up and rotate it. So now the question is, what is that point when measured from this new datum? So I'm going to go ahead and get the adjustments and recite it right into there, and then we're going to make another measurement. Okay, so I was in collection data already here, so I'm ready to collect. I'm now pointing to that spot. I'm going to hit F3 for collection. It's going to ask me to identify it as a new point. It already incremented this to D2. Let's see, have I taken D2 yet? To be safe, I could go up there and hit input and say alphanumeric D letter 3. So there I'm at D3, and hit enter. I had 6666. Maybe I'd change that to input and make it 7777, whatever I want. Enter. It asks again about the reflector height. I'm at the same 1.737 that I had. That's actually a new number that I had programmed in when I was looking at my heights. And so I hit input. 1.733. 1.733. 33. Enter. And there I am, ready to make a measurement. I'm pointing at the spot that I'd like to measure, and I'm going to hit my measure button. So let's hit measure. It counts for a little bit, and I'm going to hit the stop button. And it's showing that the northern number is 4999.936. It should have been 5,000, but it's off by a tiny amount. And in the easting, it reads 5,000.023. So I'm, what's that, 2.3 centimeters off in my easting number, and I'd have to do the math on the other side to figure out what it is on that side. It also shows that my altitude is 1.5 centimeters off in this direction, and that could have just been me being quick about my setups. So I can remeasure if I want, or I can now record that data point. If I press the record, it puts it in. That was the D3 point that got recorded. Sorry, that's the D4 point that got recorded. And then next time I go to make a measure, I'll get a new point number. So that's a quick introduction to making a measurement, but also moving the base of this to a new location and making new measurements. Again, you could do it again. You could use this as a point. You now know the NEZ value of this point. You could walk this to down the field there and point it at this point. Use that as your NEZ reference to do the rotational calibration, and that will get you to transform this location over to that location so you could make local measurements over there. Maybe one last closing point, power down when you're not using it. But this little spot here is a point for a USB connection. It's actually an RS-232 point. This is rather old tech, so in Windows environments you have to install a driver, and you can find that on the internet. Or you might look at for a USB stick that's in the box. That driver will bring it into Windows, and you'll have to figure out which COM port you've opened, and then you're able to set that as your COM port and scroll the data in, and that will be able to save as a CSV file, which then allows you to play with the numbers yourself. Finally, if you use these numbers to locate something, and it said, say, 5,001 meters, and then you found that finally you got maybe a GPS setting to where there's a GPS value, and they pointed to some spot. From your datum, you might shoot to that GPS, your first point, you might shoot to that GPS spot and find out the northern and eastern numbers from that and height, and you basically subtract those off. Remember that you have to also back off the 5,000 that you artificially put in there as well. So subtract 5,000, 5,100 from each number, the northern, eastern, and vertical, and then add in the numbers that you got from your GPS value, and those would be true on the graph or on the map points, adding those to whatever UTM map that you're on, the map number, and that would give you a complete definition onto the Earth that is as accurate as your original GPS point, plus the error of any of these, but it's still way better than just holding up your phone and getting a plus or minus 3 meter number out of the GPS system.